USC's Bad News Bear. They actually have one of those.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast. The show is always going to be free, and I'm always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, USC's Bad News Bear has their own version of Mr. Buttermaker. You know, giving Bear Alexander some bad news, bad advice. And that's turned into some bad news for, Bear Alexander, USC fans. USC's coaching staff was hoping to develop Bear Alexander at USC. I have no idea. And I really doubt that Tony Jones is a drunk like Mr. Buttermaker was. I doubt that Tony Jones drives a convertible beat-up Cadillac and cleans pools for a living. But he has been loud. He has been obnoxious. He's been hanging out on social media. And I get it. He's trying to defend, quote-unquote, his son's honor. But because of that, as I mentioned earlier in the week, Lincoln Riley was forced to address the situation. After Tuesday's practice. For those of you who missed this, this is why you need to become an everyday listener and viewer of the show. Let me remind everybody what Lincoln Riley said. This was after Tuesday's practice. This is the timeline. He played over a third of the game. People want to act like he's been playing, like he hasn't been playing snaps. He's doing a good job for us out there. There's no story there. I know you guys are looking for one. There's no story there. Coach Riley continued with the statement. He wanted to make sure that the media understood where everything stood with Bear. Okay? He's in a new system with a new coach. He's getting better, and I think he's going to get better. It should be hard to play D-line at USC. It ought to be kind of hard. It wasn't hard last year. That's why we weren't very good up front. So sometimes it's not what someone is not doing, but it's competitive, and there's tough decisions that need to be made every week. Guy is getting better. He needs to be, let me back up. Go look at the last snap. Last snap of the game. See if he's on the field. There's no story there. Guy is getting better. He needs to keep improving, and I'm confident that he will with the coaching we have and the room that we have him in. End quote. This is not about name, image, and likeness. Okay, I got that confirmed by various sources. This is about playing time. You don't believe me? Listen to Bears father figure, Tony Jones. Go check it out. It's all over social media. Can't miss it. Former USC player, Dion Bailey. Go to his timeline. You could see it. Bear Alexander, he's upset with guys. Well, he's not upset with his teammates. I think he's upset that his teammates, Gavin Meyer, Nate Clifton, Kobe Pepe, they're getting either more or equal playing time than Bear, who, again, last year was considered the best player on USC's defense. That was last year. On Wednesday, following along with the timeline, Coach Dan Lynn, he spoke with the media after practice. He said it would be head coach Lincoln Riley addressing the situation on Thursday. I'm recording this episode on Thursday. I was on the Zoom call. So again, Coach Riley said it was a non-story 2 days earlier on Tuesday. Wednesday, Coach Lynn said, hey, be patient. Coach Riley will address the situation with you on Thursday. Here we are. Suddenly, there was no comment. Coach Riley said, we're not going to talk about internal matters. He's been removed from the depth chart. I wasn't content, I guess is the best way to put it, with that answer. I'm not mad. I just think we deserved a little bit more. I mean, Coach Riley had well over 24 hours to come up with more than we're not going to talk about Bear Alexander. We're moving forward. Let's talk about the upcoming game against Wisconsin. I get it. You don't want this to be a distraction. It already is a distraction. So somebody over on the wersc.com message board didn't think that he thought maybe the poster thought I was holding Coach Riley to a higher standard, higher than it should be. And he said, well, how would you have handled it if you were the coach? All right. Here's how Coach Culkin would have handled it. So the question would have been, from me to Coach, when did the non-story become a real story? Obviously something changed. So here's how Coach Culkin would have answered the question. I thought our meeting between the parties involved came to an understanding. So obviously things changed quickly. As of right now, we're evaluating what's best for the team. Beyond that, I'd prefer not to speculate on Bear's future with the program. Okay, that would have sufficed me. That's an easy answer. It's been addressed. We're moving forward. Going forward, I actually think Bear redshirting is the best thing for the team, as well as for himself. Bear Alexander is physically mature. He's a talented defensive lineman. He's a quarter of a way through his junior season. So after playing 3 games, he's unhappy about his playing time. He's decided he's going to redshirt. He's going to preserve his 2 more years of eligibility. So now he's got a redshirt junior year as well as a senior year. I want to be perfectly clear, okay? I don't care where Bear ends up. If he chooses to remain a Trojan, great. He can use his redshirt junior year to mature. And think about how hard it is to play defensive line at a place like USC. And if Bear's big picture goal is still to play in the NFL, I know it is. Well, Bear might think about how much harder it's going to be when his college eligibility actually runs out. I mean, let's be honest. When Bear said he's redshirting, that means he's going to jump into the transfer portal once it's open. When the season ends, he will be back in the transfer portal. I don't see him coming back to USC. I don't think it's possible. Not with the bad blood that's kind of simmering on underneath underneath everything. You've got his father figure talking. Bear obviously is going to do whatever Tony Jones says. I don't think you can come back from that. So again, season ends, anticipate Bear jumping into the transfer portal. And again, I think that's great. Maybe his 8th stop in his journey to the NFL will finally be that green pasture of grass that he's looking for. He was, depending on how you look at it, Bear Alexander was enrolled in 5 different high schools. He played for 4 of them. He ended up on scholarship at Georgia, stayed there for a year, at USC for a year that he played, plus 3 games this year. Assuming he's going to be in the transfer portal. His next stop, number 8. That's a lot. So here's my message to Bear. You are actually an adult now. I think he might be 21 years old. I didn't go check his birth certificate, but I know he's getting up there. You're an adult. Whatever choice you make sure it's yours, okay? Yours alone. Cut that umbilical cord. Tell Dad thank you. You will listen to what he suggests, but you have to make the decision. I'm old enough to remember when redshirting was about letting the younger player's body physically mature, not pushing him out there too soon. I'm also old enough to know that in Bear's case, he needs this time to mature. He needs to stop allowing someone else's ego, maybe his own, and their feelings to get hurt. Again, it appears like Bear's on the move again. So here's my question. Did Bear or his father think playing time was going to be guaranteed at a place like Georgia? At USC? I don't think anybody's making that promise. I really don't. I don't think anybody was lied to, misled. And look, if you think USC former players are tough to deal with, just wait till Philadelphia Eagle fan gets involved. Heaven forbid Trey Alexander land on the Philadelphia Eagles roster. I don't know if that family can handle it. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on Universal Cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and you can be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Before the bad news broke about Bear, I did not consider this game against Wisconsin, USC's next home game, this Saturday, 12:30. It's sold out. There was no chance in hell I would call this a trap game. And it probably still isn't. I think the team is focused, ready to play. But let's not, kind of just sweep this under the rug. This is going to be another unexpected test for the team's mental maturity. How are they going to handle this situation? Dealing with the unexpected. Not having one of your, bigger quotes, star players available. Not just this game, for the rest of the season. He's redshirting. You kind of have to look at it as, hey, what if Bear was injured? Well, that's the mentality you have to have. He's not playing. I know this team is not going to quit, roll over, curl up in the fetal position. They came from behind to beat LSU in Las Vegas. They almost pulled it off in Ann Arbor. I mean, Woody Marks encapsulated the no-quit mentality this team has. I mean, that, for me, is still the play of the year. Eric Gentry's proved it to me. Stud. Man-child on that field. I'm not worried about USC's depth. Okay? I know Bear's not available. You still got Gavin Meyer. You still got Nate Clifton. You still got Kobe Pepe. You still got Devin Tompkins. Elijah Hughes moves up the depth chart. Oh, and is this the coming out party of Jide Abasiri? Why not, right? 1 week before USC travels to Minnesota. Let's get this party started, Jide. I'm not sure if Achille Arnold will be available. Again, when we spoke to Coach Riley on Thursday's Zoom call, it's still kind of a day-to-day thing. We'll see how he is come game day. I don't think he's playing. And if he doesn't, that's okay. USC's got a lot of depth in their secondary. Bryson Shaw, next man up. Zion Branch, I think he's going to be ready to play now. Whatever that injury was, he's ready to slide on out there. So those are the players that for USC fans to kind of keep an eye on, as far as what's going to happen in this game. Guys who need to step up, next man up situation. But who are some of the players from Wisconsin that you should be cognizant of, names to remember? So according to Colton Bartholomew of the Wisconsin State Journal, he joined Eric McKinney over there at WeAreSC.com. Dropped a few names. I'm going to bring them over here for you. First one is a wide receiver. That was the first name out of the guy's mouth. Kind of blew me away. His name is Will Pauling. Quote, I mean, he's a guy every week. The slot receiver is such a focus in the Longo system. And then he's probably the only guy that consistently beats man coverage and gets open. I'd say the most consistently. Well, if he's playing in the slot, Greedy Vance, meet Will Pauling. Greedy's been the main guy at the nickelback. When he's not in there, Prophet Brown gets his chance. And then you also have Anthony Beavers Jr., who goes up against the bigger guys. He's got that hybrid role. He can also play weak side linebacker. The running back USC defense, USC's defense needs to be aware of. USC fans, you need to be aware of. His name is Chez Malusi. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Kalel Mullings, Michigan's running back. Same build, same type of guy. Quote, he's a guy they really lean on. He hasn't been quite as explosive this year, coming off a broken leg and ankle. I think he's still trying to figure out how to get to the second gear again. But consistency, grinding out 4 yards is still effective. And still going to be he's going to be pretty efficient moving forward. All right. That's what Michigan did all game against USC until they eventually popped an explosive play. Remember, 46 run plays. USC held them for 43 of them. Their average was around 4 yards, a little under 4 yards per carry. We know what happened on those 3 explosive plays. Can't let that happen 2 weeks in a row. I'm curious to see if Antonlynn decides, you know what, let's roll the same defensive game plan we had against Michigan. Let's go 4-3. So, and if they don't go that 3 linebacker, has Eric Gentry taken the oar away from Mason Cobb? Eric Gentry has been lights out. Mason's played great. Don't get me wrong, but Eric right now is on a different level. And what's so great about it, and Coach Lynn mentioned it after practice on Wednesday, I mentioned it on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, is Eric has more responsibility. They're giving him more things to do, and I think that's kind of unlocked his potential. The other guy for Wisconsin to be aware of on offense is another wide receiver. His name is Trech Kekahuna. Quote, kind of maybe an X factor, a wild card, depending on how they want to run this offense with Locke out there. Remember, Wisconsin's backup quarterback, Braden Locke, is playing. I spoke about him earlier this week on Locked On USC. Go check it out. I believe it was Tuesday's episode. He's a second slot receiver type. He's doing a decent number of snaps, but not nearly, I think, what he probably should be. Again, this is Colton speaking. If they didn't have Pauling, I think he'd be totally fine if he started and was their focus. It's just one of those situations where he's behind their best player on offense. So I think if they do go to that four wide, and more up-tempo stuff, you're going to see a lot more of Kekahuna on the field at the same time as Pauling, end quote. What I found interesting about that, so of the 3 players, the Wisconsin State Journal said, hey, USC's defense, be aware of these guys. 2 of them were wide receivers. And not one of those names was C.J. Williams, the former wide receiver from USC via Mater Dei. I don't know, I found that interesting. Did you? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments section. You know where to find me. On YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter. Defensively, here's a couple names to kind of keep an eye on. You might remember this name, USC fans. I know you're waiting for it. Linebacker, Tackett Curtis. He is a sophomore. For my everyday Reagan, I know you'll love that. Giggle, giggle. Quote, I think he's probably played the best out there of the inside linebackers. most consistent. They've had a ton of issues over running plays and over pursuing stuff with the top two guys. I think Curtis has been a good stabilizer for that. Okay. What? Wasn't that his issue last year at USC? Everything I just read. Hey, I think it's great. I hope Tackett Curtis goes on to have a solid career. I think he will. There's a reason why USC made him the only linebacker prospect in that recruiting class last year, 2023. Tackett obviously wasn't comfortable at USC. I thought I would have been really interested to see what this coaching staff could have done with him. Instead, he followed along to Alex Grinch, and Mike Tressel is the actual DC with the Wisconsin Badgers. So, the other guy to keep an eye on, he's a safety. His name is Hunter Wohler, quote, leading tackler last season, a guy they just try to get around the ball as much as possible. He's had a little bit of trouble this year, I think because they haven't run quite as much of the dollar package where they put him more at linebacker depth as opposed to, playing him deep. But I think he's a guy, especially in this game, where there are stars on the outside who has to have a good game. He's probably their surest tackler across the whole defense. So keep an eye on Hunter Wohler coming to lay the wood. The third guy on defense, nickelback, Max Lofi. He's their nickelback. He's going to draw their assignment on the Zachariah Branch probably the most often. That's going to be the key matchup for Wisconsin. If Lofi can at least, I don't know, if anybody can cover Branch super consistently, but at least make it hard to get the ball to him every other play, I think that's going to be a win for Wisconsin that they'll take. So they don't anticipate stopping Zachariah Branch. Nobody's going to stop Zachariah except Zachariah himself. I think he's going to have a big game. But the goal, what Wisconsin's hoping to do is just disrupt Zachariah enough to get him off his game. Don't let him make any explosive big plays. To USC fans, who remembers the name Atticus Bertram? He was originally supposed to be USC's punter, but he never made it to USC. He had some I guess there were some challenges with his visa. You got to figure it out. He is now a Wisconsin Badger. By the way, Wisconsin also has a guy named Gavin Myers, plural. No relation to USC's Gavin Meyer. So I found that a little interesting. You've got Gavin Meyer at USC. You've got Coach Urban Myers, who used to coach at Florida. If you know, you know. And now you have Gavin Myers over there at Wisconsin. Again, it's really interesting to see. Does CJ Williams is he going to make an impact in this game? Apparently, he's not one of their top 2-3 wide receivers. Hey, NFL fans, to start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You know how you kind of get a hunch during the middle of the game? You got to check out the scores and stats. Now you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Never used FanDuel before? Cool. Here's your chance. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, let's close out this week. I got a Friday rant. I told you at the beginning of the week I was going to save it for my Friday rant. After the game against Michigan, I was a little upset. I was upset because the team gave me a taste of undefeated, 3-0. I knew if they got past that Michigan game, this schedule was set up perfectly. I do not anticipate USC going undefeated, but now they've only got, I said they're going to be 10-2. They've already got one loss on the docket. One they gave away. They literally gave it away. They had some help. There was some really bad officiating, home cooking at Michigan, which kind of segues me into my rant. I love the big house. I thought it was cool. But, getting back to cooking fish for the media, fish tacos, no. No, you don't do that. Thank God I saved half of my pastrami sandwich from Zennigan's. Oh, man. Really big press box, spacious, plenty of room. No complaints about that. None whatsoever. Good view of the field. But the windows don't open. And if you're going to serve fish sticks to make fish tacos, you got to have better ventilation. You just do. Number one, don't serve fish. Number two, I don't like fish. Number three, if you're going to do it, have a second option and make sure you've got ventilation. I had to survive off of a half a pastrami sandwich, coffee, and some little chocolate bar. The dessert was okay. I mean, I couldn't even go buy a hot dog in the second half. You know why? They ran out of hot dogs at the big house. How do you do that? It's not like you haven't sold out, I don't know how many in a row with 100,000 people. How do you ever run out of hot dogs at a football game? When you've got 110,000 people, you got to have at least 98,000 hot dogs. I would think. For me, that would be the bare minimum. I just pulled that number out of thin air. I really love the big house. I scratched it off my bucket list. Looking forward to going back again. Maybe we'll have a better meal. But here were the two things that left a sour taste besides the meal in my mouth. We know the officiating was sucky. Home cooking. So on my way to the press conference, you got to take the elevator down. And a lot of times when you're in the elevator, you're riding with VIPs. Okay. Well, Michigan has a former coach who still hangs out. This former coach never beat USC. He got in the elevator with the media and he started popping off. Yeah, we kicked their butts all up and down the field. We won the war of the trenches. Great, you did. We did how we wanted, when we wanted. It felt so good to do what we wanted on offense and to stop them on defense. It's like, you know what, coach? You want to watch the film together? Because you guys had some home cooking. Oh, no, we didn't. We did what? Don't complain about officiating. I was like, sir, you want to talk about Miller Moss's head not doing the Linda Blair 3 times? He didn't want to hear any of this. And then all of a sudden his wife chimes in. I remember a time when people didn't. And I bit my lip because pissed off Mark knows how to play the let's talk smack game. Because my response was going to be, I remember a time when a former coach wouldn't get into the elevator and start popping off, especially one that never beat USC. But I didn't. I held my tongue. And then I had to literally walk out of the stadium, walk around the stadium. And as I'm trying to get back inside the stadium to attend Lincoln Riley's press conference, I've got part of 100,000 Michigan fans leaving. Have you ever tried to drive against traffic on a freeway? First of all, it's illegal. Second of all, you're probably going to get in an accident. That's what I was up against. That's what I was dealing with. That's what this Friday rant is about. Michigan, do just a couple things better. Serve better meals. Don't run out of food. And figure out a contingency plan for the media. At every other stadium that I've ever been to, the media is allowed on the field for the last 5-6 minutes of the game. That gives them access to get to the press conference. When we got there, Lincoln Riley was already talking. All right. I'm going to be back after the game against Wisconsin. I will have an instant reaction. I fully anticipate being in a really good mood. I think USC is going to cover that 15.5-point spread. This is not the time when Wisconsin wants to be showing up. I think there's going to be a pissed off team. They know they gave that game away in Ann Arbor. They know they should be 3-0. We'll see what happens. So until then, everyone, thanks for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. I'll see you after the game on Saturday. Until then, everyone, you know what to do.